If we consider an ecosystem, the ecosystem is mainly composed of two components. One is abiotic component and another one is biotic component. What are the abiotic components? The abiotic components are mainly the non-living things such as the soil, water, air, sunlight, particulate matter and other things which are non-living. Whereas the biotic components are the living things. They include microorganisms, plants, animals, etc. These biotic components are further classified into two types. Those are producers and consumers. Producers are the living things which generate their food on their own basis through the help of abiotic components like sunlight, air, water, soil, etc. If we consider a plant or a tree, it will generate its own food through the inputs received from the abiotic components such as sunlight and the soil nutrients through a process known as photosynthesis. The plants are the not only the living things that generate their own food through the photosynthesis. There are several microorganisms such as algae which generate their own food through photosynthesis. So, if we look at the consumers are further classified into three types. Those are primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. We'll look at each one of them. Primary consumers are the ones that feed on producers. These producers are otherwise also known as autotrophs. The secondary consumers are the ones which feed on the primary consumers, and the tertiary consumers are the ones which feed upon the secondary consumers. Suppose if we take an insect such as a ladybug, it is a primary consumer because it will feed mainly on the plants, that is, producers. If we consider a frog, this frog will eat that ladybug insect, so the frog now is called as a secondary consumer because it is feeding on the primary consumer, which is a ladybug. If we consider a snake in that same ecosystem, will mainly feed on the frogs. So the snakes are now called as tertiary consumers because they are feeding on the secondary consumers. But what about human being? Human being is an omnivore because he feeds on the producers, those are plants and other microorganisms, as well as the consumers, which are called as primary, secondary, and tertiary consumers. In the next video, we'll look into some more ecological terms and their descriptions.